Hi everybody, and welcome to the Bear Necessities. I'm Bear, and we are making rice. Simple, easy, and yet it can be a little confounding. So I'm going to walk you through making it. That way you can do it at home every time. Let's get started. For this, you're going to need rice, water, salt, oil, maybe a strainer. Otherwise, we're just going to wash in a bowl, but you have to wash your rice. I'm using jasmine rice tonight. You can use whatever you like. I also prefer basmati or Texmati, which is a Texas basmati rice. Jasmine has a nice sweet scent to it, and the flavor is really lovely, and it gets nice, soft, and fluffy, which is what I want because I'm going to be using this with some sofrito that I've made and make sofrito rice for dinner tonight for my boys. I'm going to do a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every cup of rice, there'll be 2 cups of water. So I have 2 cups of rice right here. So I have 4 cups of water. And this is just plain, everyday, ordinary water. Nothing special. And then I have salt. We're going to use about a teaspoon. It doesn't take a huge amount of salt for rice for it to be really good and lovely. And the oil is so that we can actually kind of pre-brown some of the rice, because it kicks off the cooking process and it gives it a better flavor. It brings out some nuttiness and softness to the rice that otherwise would be kind of bland a little. So first, let's go ahead and wash our rice. I'm just gonna rinse it really quick over here off the side, but in my strainer, and I'm going to wet all of the grains and just start kind of turning them over. And what I'm watching for is for the water to actually run clear off of them. Rice has a bit of a starch on the outside of it, and we don't want that right now. I don't want sticky rice. I want it to be loose. I want every grain to kind of be able to be on its own if possible. So we're rinsing off a lot of the starch that would otherwise bind it and keep it well put together. And it just takes a minute or so of rinsing to really get the rice to where you want it. You can also, if you don't have the strainer, just put your pan or a bowl or whatever and the rice in the bottom, add some water to it, and just start kind of moving the grains around on themselves. You'll see the water kind of go milky, and you're just going to want to dump that out without losing the rice. You may have to do that twice, 2-3 times, just to really get it to a good place. But now we have rinsed rice. I got quite a bit of the starch off. So I'm gonna let it drain for just a second. We don't want too much extra liquid here, just because we are going to be cooking it in hot oil, and splatter is not fun. In the meantime, let's start preheating our pan. So I've got my little electric cooktop here. We're going to heat this all the way up to high. This is not a nonstick pan, it's nothing special. But I prefer to use it just because you can cook at a higher temperature. You want to bring rice up to the high temperature and then drop it down, because it's going to cook at the low level, but you have to get it to the high first. As Anne Burrell, goddess and love that she is, she says, bring to boil, reduce to simmer. That is true in pretty much all long-term cooking. So let's stick with that. So we're going to start getting this warm. And while that heats up, let me just move everything out of the way. And, if you want to add a little bit more flavor, you can use some chicken stock or beef stock, depending on what you're making, or vegetable stock if you don't do animal. Or if you have bouillon, things like that, you can mix a little bit in. You can do whatever you want with the liquid. You can even add a whole tomato chopped up in there, or some tomato paste, puree, whatever, for like red rice, things like that, which are delicious. Okay, it feels like we actually have our pan up to temperature. So I'm going to add a teaspoon or 2 of oil, not too much, doesn't take too much. And it is already hot. So grab my rice and toss it in. And it doesn't take long for it to cook up a little bit, but you want to brown some of the grains here. It doesn't have to be all of them. You're not going to be able to really get that. If that's too long, you'll start to burn. But you're going to get quite a few covered. And as it browns, you will start smelling that sweetness that I talked about. But you're going to get about a blanched almond color, if that tells you anything. So it's a light brown. You don't want to go too far past that. But I'm going to keep it moving so that nothing sticks, since this is a stainless steel pan. It's not nonstick. It can still stick. All right, looks like my grains are pretty much dry. And they are all browning nicely. Well, not all of them, but everyone making contact. So I'm going to grab my salt, put in a good teaspoonish-esque, a little bit less than a teaspoon for this amount. Because again, it doesn't take much, especially since I'm going to be putting it into something that already has a bit of salt in it. I don't want to overkill, but you do want it flavored. Otherwise, it's going to be bland no matter what you do to it. We've got everybody brown. Let's take our water. Or again, if you have any kind of stocks or broths that you want to use. And I'm just going to stir to make sure everybody is off the bottom of the pan, which they should very easily come off. And all right, I'm going to let this come up to a boil. I'm going to put it on high, or close to high. On this, it's a 9 out of a 10 scale. It should actually start boiling fairly quickly, but I'm not going to make you watch. So we're just going to fast forward for 3 seconds, and I'll see you back in a second. All right, so my water's at boiling. That literally took about a minute, so lucky me. I'm going to go in there, stir lightly. You don't want to disturb it too much. And I'm going to drop this down to the lowest heat. If you're working on a 10 scale, this goes down in halves. You want it to be low, like not even medium low, like low. You want it to basically hold on to a simmer, but nothing more than that. And really, simmer might be too high. And we're going to let this cook for 18 minutes. And we're going to let it sit with no heat going for 5 minutes, just to let everything finally finish absorbing all the water and kind of settle down. And then we'll fluff up the rice and we'll be good. So I'll see you back in just a minute. All right, so our rice is finished cooking. It cooked for 18 minutes, and then I stopped the heat. I turned the cooktop off and I actually took it away from it just to sit on my stovetop for an additional 5 minutes, actually been almost 6. Oh no. That way it can finish absorbing all the liquid and kind of get itself settled back down. But let's get the lid off of this. Nice and warm, as you can tell. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir to kind of fluff it up. But look at that. Fluffy, soft, light, so aromatic. And not stuck to the pan. Who would have thunk? Oh, it's beautiful. So rice, it's easy. A few ingredients, a few steps, and it's really cheap. So it's one of those foods you can make a little bit. If you're ever just like, God, I just want to eat 5,000 of something. Rice. There you go. I hope you enjoy making rice. One of those simple things that a lot of people find so much pleasure in. I'm trying to demystify the kitchen a little bit for you. I hope this helps. Until I see y'all again. Bye.